G'day everyone and welcome to Melbourne Power Equipment's YouTube channel. In today's video we'll be going over the carburetors and the modern Honda V-Twins, which is the GX630, the GX660 and the GX690. All three models use a very similar carburetor, so these procedures will be the same for all three models. One of the most common issues we see come through our workshop with the Honda V-Twins is a carby that has had some stale fuel go through it or contaminated fuel, which causes the engine to run rough, underpowered or smoky. We do a heap of these repairs every week in our workshop, and it all comes down to either water in the fuel or contamination through the fuel system. So in today's video I'll show you how we remove the carby from the engine, fully dismantle it, clean it throughout, put a kit through the carby, reassemble it and refit it back onto the engine. Righto, the first step is to remove the carburetor from the engine, so let's get into it. Okay, so we'll start off by removing the air filter cover. And now take the air filter off, undo the spring nut on the top. Now I'll take the air filter base off. So I've got 4 bolts, one there, one there, one there, and one there, all 10 mil. And that just lifts up and off. Okay, next we'll take this cowling off. That just makes it easier to get to the drain hose and the solenoid wire on the bottom of the carby. If there's a bit of framework in front of this cover or you can't take it off for whatever reason, that's okay. We can still take the carby off and I'll show you how we do that when we're removing it. Okay, so first up, 2 Phillips head screws, one there and one there. I've got 4 10mm bolts, one there, one there, one down there, and one down in there. Just pull off now. Okay, so that's the drain hose we're talking about, and that is the wire that goes to the solenoid on the bottom of the carby. So the wire just comes off. Just pull that drain hose off. Okay, so next we'll take the fuel line off. Just remove that fuel clamp and just wiggle that fuel line loose because they are always on really tight, these ones. And just prise that one off. Pop that one out of the way. Okay, a little breather line from the fuel pump. That one just pulls off. Pop that one out of the way. Okay, we have the breather line here from the crankcase. Pops off like that. Now this little black clip here is for your choke link, so you've got to take the choke link off there. So this little black clip just pushes to the side. Just like that. And then that will just lift up and out. Just stick that one aside. Okay, you will do your throttle linkages next. So just take the spring off there, it's always easiest first. Then we've got a similar clip here which we've got to undo. So we'll just push that one down very carefully without breaking it. That just comes out. Okay, now at the back of the carby and the air filter elbow, we've got 4 10mm bolts there we have to undo to take the carby off. Okay, so if you couldn't take that front cowling off before to get to the fuel drain hose and the solenoid wire, now is where you take them off. So you pull the carby back a bit and just get your pliers down to there, take the fuel drain hose off and the solenoid wire off just there, and pull the carby off all as one piece. Okay, so first we'll take the choke link off. And the air filter elbow will come off with those 4 bolts. Now there is a little rubber O-ring that sits around there, so just be careful not to lose that one. And the black insulator block. With the gaskets. Okay, next I'll undo the fuel solenoid and remove that. That's a 19mm. And a bit of fuel will come out there. Now fuel solenoid, that little piston there does come out, and there is a little spring in there that can fly out, so just be cautious of that one. Now undo the 4 screws on the bottom of the carby bowl. Too bad on the inside actually. You will see a whole heap of gunk on the bad ones built up, just down in there. Okay, this little screw here holds in the little float pin. That float comes out, and with the needle. Just check the tip of that needle, make sure it's still soft on the rubber. Still in good condition, which that one is. There is a little drain screw just in there on the carby bowl. It's got an O-ring on that one, so we'll take that out. Pop that aside. Now these are the 2 main jets. They're made of brass, so just be careful taking these ones out. They are very soft. Doesn't matter if you get them mixed up, they're the same on both sides. Now there is 2 emulsion tubes in there as well that will need to come out. They'll usually come out, tap on the bench, just on a rag. You don't want to damage the surface on that, so just be careful. If they don't come out easily with that, just a little easy out will do fine. Push it in there and pull it out. You don't want to damage that little brass on it, so just do it very gently. Okay, next we'll take the idle jets out. So take this little top plate off. And these ones you just pry out very carefully. There's 1, there's 2. They're just pressed in and that rubber O-ring holds them in. Okay, we have a little fuel filter that sits in the fuel inlet. Little one there, so always check that one. Don't have to always take the choke cap off just so it gets in there and gives it a good clean. Righto, that's ready to be cleaned. Now I've got an ultrasonic cleaner, I'll just pop these through, but just a can of brake clean will do fine. Just going through all the little jets. In through the idle jets, up through the main jets. Just clean the internal and externals of the carb everywhere. Inside the bowl, make sure you get everywhere. In through the emulsion tubes, make sure the little holes are clean. The main jets, there's one tiny little hole right through the middle of there. Just make sure that's clean. That's where your fuel comes through. And your idle jets, same deal, one very tiny little hole in the middle there. And then the fuel comes out the side bits there, so just make sure that's all nice and clean. Okay, I've gone through and cleaned the carburetor up. So I've got the body, the bowl, the float pin and the float needle, the solenoid valve, 2 idle jets, idle jet cover with a screw, that's the little choke cover. Got the little filter that goes inside the fuel inlet, the little drain screw, the 2 emulsion tubes and the 2 main jets, the 4 screws that hold the bowl on, and the 1 screw that holds your little float pin on. Okay, little gasket that contains all your O-rings throughout the carby, and just a little gasket that goes on the solenoid. Okay, let's rebuild it. Firstly, we'll pop the 2 emulsion tubes in. Now there's 2 ways they can go in. The 2 rib parts go in last, so they go towards the top. We'll pop the 2 main jets in. And we'll just screw them in. Don't do these ones in too tight, just snip them up. Okay, so now we'll do the float, the needle and the pin. So the needle just locates inside the float holder like that. That holds the needle in place. And the little pin just goes straight through there like that. Okay, so now we pop that assembly just straight in the carby. Now this is a little bit tricky, this part, because the needle does like to come out of its holder. Stick it down like that, just make sure that needle's still sitting in there, just like that. Hold that down. And we pop the screw in. So you can see there, it's grabbing the needle. Grab the little O-rings out. The main one on the bowl. And the little, just the off-over one, goes down the bottom. And these 2 locating pins here. Let's go straight into there on the carby, so it sits in that way. Just don't do them all the way up yet, just slightly nick them up so it goes down evenly. And once all your screws are down, then nick them all up. That just ensures that O-ring is compressed properly. And next we'll pop the drain screw in. So we'll just take that O-ring off. Okay, there are 2 for the idle jets, and then the bigger one is for the drain screw. Put that on. Screw that one in. Pop the solenoid on. Now if you're unsure about the solenoid too, you can check these. Just pop 12 volts DC on that terminal there, then just earth it out to the body, and when you put power to it, it'll click it in. That's a good way to check it. Pop the new gasket on. And nip that up to 9mm. Pop a little choke cover back on. Our little fuel filter, which is all nice and clean. So it just pushes back in. Okay, let's do our idle jets. Pull old O-ring off. New one on. And you just wet those a little bit and they'll go in a little bit easier. Push straight in. Old O-ring off. New one on. Just wet that O-ring a little bit. Beautiful. Now we pop the cover over and that screw. Righto, that's your carby rebuilt. Okay, now we'll pop the air filter elbow on. Again, just check that O-ring, make sure that's in place. All those bolts will go through. Replace these intake gaskets if you need to. Okay, there's a couple of ways this insulator block can go on. So I cut out to the top, and the knob that comes out to the choke side of the carby. Got our little choke linkage here. It goes into the bottom hole. Just pop that up there, ready to go in. Okay, that's ready to go back onto the engine. Okay, so now we're up to fitting the carburetor back onto the engine. So if you couldn't take that front cowling off at the start, now is where you would pull that solenoid wire and the drain hose, which is just there. So when you fit your carby down onto it, you can connect them onto them easily. But our cowling's off, so we don't have to worry about that step just yet. Okay, so now we'll fit the carby on. Just make sure your little choke link's up and out the way. Your solenoid will sit down into a little gap just down in there, which you'll see. And then just line that up, slide it on, and then just roughly do up a couple of those bolts to get you started. Now we'll do up these 4 bolts that hold the carb assembly on to the engine. Alright, they're all nipped up. Okay, so now we'll do the throttle linkage. Make sure that your spring is on the throttle linkage. That will just sit straight in there. You need to move that clip up and it will clip up and over that shaft. There you go. Just like that. Now pop the spring on. It's easier if you pop it on the throttle side first. Clip it onto there. And then into the governor arm side. Okay, that one's done. Pop our little breather line from the fuel pump on. Stick that down into place. And we've got our fuel line, which will stick on as well. Pop that clamp back on. Right, that's that side done. Okay, so the choke linkage just goes into that little clip there, and that little clip just goes over the top and clips onto it. Crankcase breather goes onto the air filter elbow, and that's that side done. Okay, so now we'll pop our fuel drain hose on first. And now our solenoid wire, which is just a little blade terminal. Beautiful. And now we'll pop our blower housing or the cowling back on. Just here is a little clamp, and that sits just over that fuel line just there. So position that on. So the fuel line's that little clamp. Now we have the two Phillips heads. And that's the blower housing on. Okay, and finally we'll put our air filter housing on. 4 10mm bolts. Air filter, the wing nut to hold the air filter on, and the air filter cover. Righto, all done. Your carby has now been fully cleaned and reassembled back onto the engine, and now you are ready to give it a test. At this stage, it's a good idea to change the fuel filter on the engine, and maybe even give it a service if it needs one. Thanks heaps for watching today's video. I hope it has really helped you out. If you'd like to help us out, hit that like and subscribe button, and that would be fantastic. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.